Also, just to give you guys a heads up too, because I'm going to throw a video up on TikTok, but I've been dealing with, I wouldn't say health complications, but issues for a long time. So since I was about 20, I'm now turned 50 this year. So since about 20 years of age or thereabouts, they might have been late teens, I started off with little patches of just psoriasis or dry skin on my elbows and my knees. And it's progressively got worse, as you probably know and you've probably seen. It's all over me in places. Knees, legs, and probably the only places, well, it is now, but more on my hands and back and freaking everywhere. It's obviously you guys have probably seen some of the tattoos that are on the back and the top of my arm. The only reason I've never got any more is because of this shit. But yeah, I don't know if you can see up here or not. It's here, there, and everywhere, if you know what I mean. That's just some of what's there. But yeah, I've been dealing with that psoriasis for fucking years. And, I've tried to get my diet way better than it's ever been for a long time. Over the last probably 5 or 6 years, I basically have no sugar anymore. It's very little occasionally, but you know what I mean? There might be the odd time that we might just buy a bit of chocolate occasionally, or have an ice cream occasionally, or maybe a can of fizzy, probably shouldn't be, but when I mean occasionally, maybe once or twice a fortnight sort of type of thing. It's probably too much, but you know what I mean? It's not as I'm having it every day. I'm not living on fizzy or Coke or whatever you want to call it, or energy drinks. I haven't drunk energy drinks in fucking years, since the early 2000s. If you want to go back, right, so when I was 19, I did an army course and I was 82 kilos. So that's 2.2 pounds per kilo, I think. So I think 100 kilos is 220. When I was 19, I did an army course and I was about 82 kilos when I came out of there. I was fit. I went in at about 100. I was pretty fit, I could run. So 2.4 miles, or Ks, sorry, 2.4 Ks was the standard for that, and I could do it in 9 minutes. It was just under the recommendation. But when I first did the course, I couldn't do it in 13. So it was a big difference between start and end. So yeah, I could do that in 9 minutes. I could do 100 push-ups without thinking about it. All those sorts of things. So I was fit. And it wasn't like a basic army course. It was like a limited service volunteer sort of thing. It was 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it was. I can't remember. 6 weeks, I think. And I lost fucking a shitload of weight and came out of it super fit. And I tried to keep it up, but it just never happens. So because you're not doing that sort of physical work all the time. But by the time I was 20, by the time I was 26 in 2000, I'd bought a courier business, and at that point I was probably 120 kilos or more, 122, somewhere around about there. And then I started the courier business, and I dropped down to about 100. And I stayed at 100 or thereabouts, give or take. Sometimes it might have been just below 100, and sometimes it might have been 110. But I was around that sort of weight for 3 years. And then I sold that business because I just had enough of the overseeing parent company. I had guts full of them. I'm fucking convinced they were ripping us owners off. For the amount of shit that me and my partner at the time were delivering. So we bought 2 runs. I drove one van, she drove the other, and she would bring back most days a full van load of wine from the big wineries here in New Zealand, where we were, and I was delivering a lot of other stuff and whatever, and it was we were barely making ends meet. We were, but we weren't, you know what I mean? We shouldn't have been living fucking month to month when we were getting paid out. Like, no way we should have been living like that. And then chasing their tail, trying to fucking pay taxes and bullshit. But anyway, so yeah, we moved back down to this area, and then I started working in a roofing company, and she went and started doing laundry stuff. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But I ballooned out to about 140 kilos because I ended up doing night shift. I run the night shift making roofing for 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. I think the first year, well, the first half a year, I was doing day shift until they had me trained up to run it at nights. I think it was about 4 or 5 was there at nights, where there's like 20 people there during the day. We were just running circuit machines at nights. Yeah, I ballooned back out about 140 kilos, which was 308 pounds, I think it was. I remember working that out at the time. Watching some of those TV weight loss shows. I remember working it out. It's always stuck in my head. So yeah, then I started biking to work, and I cut energy drinks and soft drink out at that stage, basically. I just cut it out. Like, you know, that's where they occasionally come in. You know, every now and again you have a bit of a binge, but yeah, I basically didn't drink Coke or energy drinks or any of that sort of shit at that stage. Like, I stopped it, and my weight dropped back down to about 120 kilos or thereabouts. So yeah, that was the big relief. But that's when this wasn't that bad then, but it was starting to grow, if you know what I mean. So by that stage, I would have been about 32, I guess, thereabouts, yeah. And so yeah, but by that stage, I'd started fitting tyres, and I noticed then that every now and again, if I depending on what I was eating, but I didn't think about it at that stage, but that's when I noticed I'd started occasionally getting sore hips. I could be out for, a day, and I was like, come home, and fuck, my hips are sore, thinking that was like other things. I must just fucking overwork myself, sort of type thing. But yeah, it's progressively got, I wouldn't say got worse, but just every now and again I'll get a bad hit of it, for maybe a week or something. Like, frickin' man, you just get sore hips, you frickin' do, try to go out and do something like walk around a car show, and every now and again you just you've been there for like half an hour, and you think, fucking hell, really got to sit down. Like, I can't keep walking around. And then you get some days where I can sit there and walk around all fucking day, and it doesn't worry me. Like, you get tired and frickin' whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't get to the point where, fucking Jesus, like, the hips aren't working properly. So there's obviously something in that. Like, that's I guess you would call sort of onset of what do you call it? Arthritis. So yeah, like, there's lots of things like that, and the psoriasis has got bad and all that sort of shit. So I've decided, just through watching a few people, Jordan Peterson is one, and his daughter, I've decided, because he had psoriasis, I didn't realise that until watching just a couple of recent videos. He must have quite bad psoriasis. So I've decided to go the carnivore diet for a while, and we'll just see what happens. If I just shit cleans up and I fucking get my energy level back, because sometimes I just fucking come home, even at lunchtime, and I'll sit down and have my lunch, and I'll be fucking falling asleep at the table. Once I sort of get going again, I'm right, but it's when I stop, I'll just boom, crash. So yeah, and that's sometimes when I fucking get like here too, I could be fucking just moping around. I was like, butter out, I just haven't got the energy to do some stuff sometimes. And it sucks, because I just, fucking want to get some work done, but the body just won't let me. Like, you're sort of fucking trying to get into it, but sometimes you just can't, if you know what I mean. So it's like, I've got to fucking do something about it. Like, I turned 50 this year, and also, part of the other issue that's really fucking motivating me is the last 12 months I've been dealing with my dad. He used to come here and help me a little bit. He'd be quite often down here, just give me a hand. I wouldn't say often, like, but once or twice a month, he'd come down here for a day or whatever, if I needed an extra set of hands, because that's what he's done all his life. He's restored vehicles. He was a mechanic for since he was like fucking 14 or 13 or 15 or whatever it was when he first started doing mechanics training after he left school. 14 years old. Way back in the 1960, 59, 60, whenever it was, when he turned 14. So yeah, he's been a mechanic ever since. And he from 2000 or 99, 2000, he restored trucks for a museum. But anyway, so yeah, for the last 12 months, 12 months back before Christmas, he ended up with a really sore hip. Couldn't work out what was going on, but after Christmas, he finally went into the doctors. It would have been 2 or 3 months after, but he went to the doctors because he had this lump on his back. It was growing, like in here. Like in here, he had this lump. It was like swelling, and he thought it was just because he thought it was like inflammation and whatever, because something was wrong in his hip, because he had actually a few years ago torn the muscle off. And he thought he'd sort of done the same thing, but it wasn't getting any better or subsiding, and this was getting bigger. So they went to the doctors, and he ended up with he had a tumour in there, and it had grown off his kidney and wrapped itself around the pelvis and actually eaten a lot of the pelvis away. That's why there was so much swelling, and obviously the tumour was growing in there. It was 14 centimetres long, which is, I don't know, 6 inches almost. It's now 18 centimetres long, or borderline 8 inches. It's not quite that, but you know what I mean. But yeah, they gave him 6 weeks at that time, and he's, I wouldn't say beating it, but he's, I wouldn't say he's winning either, but he's been here a lot fucking longer than six weeks. So yeah, that's at that time they gave him 6 weeks. Mum and Dad didn't tell us. They just said that the prognosis is not good. So we thought, they might have given him say like 4 months or 6 months or something like that. They gave him 6 weeks. So he's been having Kangen water and all those sorts of things since then. If you don't know what Kangen water is, look it up. It's a machine. I don't think the Japanese invented it, but they perfected it after World War II to fight leukemia and shit like that. Obviously from all the fallout from the bombs. But anyway, so they bought one of those machines, and all the water they have is through that. We've been taking bottles of water home and drinking that. I don't always have it, but it would have been nice to have it. But it's a $5,000 fucking machine, and that's prolonged. We think that is what's prolonged his stay. He's still here, and he's now doing some other things on top of that. He's had some radium, or just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, because they can't give him chemo or anything, because everything's all attached to his kidney, so it would kill his kidney or kidneys. So yeah, that's why they haven't done chemo. But yeah, he's been trying other things, and he's looking into. I think he's starting eating. I think it's apricot kernels or whatever it is. There's another thing that really fights cancer. There's like lots of vitamins in that just cancer just can't live through, or fight things. So the story goes, and I think there's something in it. But yeah, I've decided I've fucking got to get my health under control, because like I turned 50 in September, so I've got to try and fight this fucking somehow. So what do you do? So just our diet's been pretty much just meat and veg for a long time, and it's like, well, it's not really working, but it's whether things have improved much or whatever, I don't know. I've cut the bread out, all that sort of shit just recently. We're just like fucking just had enough, fucking we've got to get rid of any extra sugar in our fucking diet. So you would, basically today is the first day of just going straight out carnivore. I just had a bit of, I think, porterhouse steak and an egg for breakfast. You can, supposedly on the carnivore, you can still have eggs, fish, that sort of thing. And some people will still drink milk. We have like raw milk from a through a bottled dairy thing. That's not all gone through all the thing. It's still got all the full cream and everything all on it. So we have that instead of all the heavily processed milk. We're still having normal cheese, but yeah, we're going to basically just cut it down to milk and cheese and see how that goes. If that still affects us, because I really only have a bit of milk and a copy. So, and maybe might just fuck that off as well. We'll see. We'll try it for a week or two and just see what happens, see how my energy levels go, and if it's still, if it's better, but it's just a matter of trying it for a wee while and then just seeing what affects. We're going to basically stick with beef and lamb, probably a bit of venison, because we can get venison reasonably easy, and obviously probably a bit of bacon here and there, and some fish occasionally and stuff like that. But basically, that's all we're going to have. We'll just try things and just see. A wee bit on, maybe a week or two on beef, and then introduce a little bit of that, and and then it just depends on whatever we can get that's reasonable cost. But if we're not buying all the other shit, if you're not buying vegetables, if you're not buying fucking canned food, you're not buying packet food and all that sort of bullshit, really, and you're only having like, a chunk of steak a day with a bit of salt and pepper on it, and maybe an egg or whatever with it, it's probably going to be no dearer than buying all the fucking fruits and vegetables and fucking everything else that goes with it, if you know what I mean. If you're not buying all those other things, it balances out. So we're going to try it and see how it goes, because Mrs. is diabetic and high blood pressure and all that sort of bullshit too. So, and she's starting to have eye complications. I think most of it's come from the fucking medication. A real thing, it really has. I think she had pregnancy diabetes, and she already had mild blood pressure before the young fellow was born. But I think the fucking medications is what fucks you up for that side of it. Just listening to Jordan Peterson's daughter, there's like so many fucking things in it. It's fucking crazy. I think the medical system, the drugs and that shit, all they do is mask everything. We're not going back to the root cause, what's causing the problems, and I think it's the gut. From what I've done research on recent times, really for a long time, but as you dig through the process, it narrows down to one thing, and it's this bit down here where you fucking put the food into. It's the food that's going in, and it's the process that's trying to sort it out. If that's not working properly, and the shit you're putting in there is not good, nothing fucking works properly. So yeah, and it'd be interesting to see, how things go and what my mood's like and all that sort of shit. So Mrs. is trying it. A young fella's trying it. He fucking fights his tooth and nail not to eat vegetables. So he's fucking over the moon. But we're cutting all his bread and all that sort of bullshit. We're just going to annihilate that from the house. And then also the missus's older boy, who's like 26, turned 26 the other day. He's had some medical issues in recent times too, but he's had his third jab. The rest of us, the young fellas never had any, and then the missus had two, thinking that she got it so she could go see her brother who's got fucking motor neuron in Australia, and I had it because I thought I was going to go to the States, which still may happen, but at some point. But yeah, like he's had some fucking major medical issues. Like he lost his use of his legs not long after he got the third jab. He just collapsed, and then he was like pissing himself and shitting himself and fucking all sorts of things. He's got that back under control and he can walk around, but now I can't give him a fucking job because he's a liability. If he loses his legs again at work, what's going to happen to him? So, and we think that's just down to fucking medical intervention. So yeah, and like he's got quite bad depression and fucking all that sort of bullshit. So apparently that's one thing that seems to disappear with all the people that we've watched. Just like some of their things, they said like some of them had like depression and all that sort of bullshit, and they said that was one thing that they noticed disappeared pretty quick if they just went straight on to just meat. And it makes sense because, you know, like, if you go back far enough, like, they were hunter-gatherers, right? You know, we just, basically, I think if you had plentiful meat, that's what you ate. And you ate, like, root vegetables or roots and bits and pieces of plants and shit like that. You know, obviously, if you didn't have a good supply of meat, you know, back in the day, you know, before they were grinding fucking flour and before that, you know, if you go back far enough, that's what they were doing. You know, they were, you know, they chased fucking shit with birds and arrows and whatever, you know what I mean? Hunted shit down or trapped it for meat, and then obviously if they didn't have meat, well, for a while, they fucking started eating the roots of fucking plants or the fruits or whatever, you know, whatever was available at the time in the season of the year, if you know what I mean. We didn't have all this fucking crap 24 fucking 7, like, you know. And, you know, that fucking food triangle thing, that's only been around since the agricultural thing came up with that. So it's all part of the bigger, you know, fucking control picture from the, you know, the 5 or 6 families that think they fucking control the world with all the money that own every other fucking company that's joined together. You know, if you do some research and figure out all these stores and companies and shit like that, if you join them all back together, go back through the food chain, they're all fucking owned by, you know, a handful of fucking people. It's fucked. You know, apart from like the small businesses, you know, like there's lots of small businesses, but it's just the big chains stuff. And if you go back through a lot of it, it's, you know, there's other big people that have got the fingers in the pie that are part of it, if you know what I mean. And if they weren't like that, well, they are now, you know, within reason. So, yeah. It's pretty fucked, but it's worth a try. You know, it's worth a try just trying this carnivore diet and seeing, like, we'll run it for, you know, for a few weeks, a couple of months, and we'll just see what happens. If fucking the weight falls off and the skin goes away and the energy's come back, well, I'll just fucking keep going, I think. And we'll cross bridges as we get there. You know, maybe after 12 months on it or 6 months on it or whatever, might try and bring a little bit of maybe root vegetable back into it or something like that, you know, that's naturally grown, and see what happens, you know, bring one back in a time, you know, maybe bring some carrots in it or bring some, I don't know, potatoes back in it or something like that, and just see what happens, you know. If this shit comes back, well, you fucking stop it, you know. If your energy levels drop it, well, you stop it. It's like one of those things, it's just a matter of trying it and seeing. So, you know, if it works, and I might live like that for the next fucking, I don't know, 50 years or whatever, well, fuck, be so be it, you know. If I drop down to fucking 80 or 90 kilos, well, that is what it is, you know what I mean? I won't be complaining if I can fucking run around and do shit. So yeah, anyway, we'll rinse this tank out.